This is Spotlight Omaha. Spotlight Omaha is a local podcast that highlights local businesses and influential movers and shakers in the Omaha business community. Spotlight Omaha is brought to you by Pixel Fire Marketing. Now, from the Pyramid Contractor Studios, the host of Spotlight Omaha, Jimmy Allen.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome inside the Spotlight Omaha podcast, where we take you around the city of Omaha, introduce you to local business owners, influential figures, and people who are making an impact on our community. We are brought to you by Pixel Fire Marketing. If your company's not showing up at the top of search engine optimization, maybe you don't have a website design, or you're not having an impact on social media, contact pixelfiremarketing.com to help with all of those things. Joining us inside the Pyramid Contractor Studios today is Mark Krzemien with Carstar. Mark, thanks for being here. I appreciate it.
Great to be here.
What is Carstar, and how are you guys helping folks not only in the Omaha area, but in the Midwest?
Well, we are an auto collision repair shop. We don't do restorations. We don't do complete paint jobs. We focus completely on auto collision repair for a quick, safe repair on every vehicle we touch.
You guys have 4 locations in the Omaha area, correct?
3 in Omaha, 1 in Lincoln.
Okay. What makes those different locations unique, and are they all one-stop shops and exactly the
They're
same?
all one-stop shops. Carstar is the largest automobile repair franchise in North America.
Sure. You guys have locations in Kansas City and
all over the nation.
And all over the nation. How does that benefit you to help clients that come in? Is there a benefit to having the ability to bounce something off somebody in Kansas City or Des Moines or wherever?
Most definitely. You can ask someone a question somewhere in the country that maybe is doing twice as much as you are in revenue, and ask them how they got over a hump or how they fixed a problem they had. Being part of Carstar is also helpful with Offutt Air Force Base here.
That's a great point.
So if someone got transferred to, say, North Carolina, we have Carstars in North Carolina or wherever to help if there's any warranty problems or anything like that.
Gold Class, ASE, Ford, Collision Repair Network, Honda and Acura, plus Subaru certified. What do these certifications help you guys do to make life easier on your clients?
Well, each manufacturer has a certain, say, set of rules, if you will,
Sure.
on how to repair their brand of vehicle. They might want, say, 100 spot welds on a panel, or they don't want you to glue a panel on.
Sure.
So a specific set of rules, or when you're in a car accident, maybe there are certain parts that you wouldn't think of that need to be replaced. Say Honda or Subaru, for example, even though no one was in the right front seat, they still might want you to replace the right front seat belt, just for certain safety standards that every manufacturer has.
When we talk about the education portion of it, and it feels like every time a new car comes out, 30 different things are changing about the vehicle, right? How do you guys at Carstar keep up to date on the education piece and constantly knowing what is changing on newer vehicles and how to repair them?
Well, I'm involved with the advisory board at Metro Community College. So
Sure.
They're on the cutting edge of always having to teach new repair technicians everything that's come out new on vehicles. Say 3 years ago, there weren't side sensors on a vehicle. We have to recalibrate those when you're in an accident. You have your windshield replaced. You have to have that sensor recalibrated so it doesn't throw off the sensor. Different steels now used in vehicles.
That's got to be the most difficult part, right? I mean, what it's actually made of?
Actually, we just held we brought in an instructor from Minnesota, and
Okay.
we did a thing called a free event where we bring in local firemen, and we get cars donated by insurance companies or
very
anyone
cool.
that's got an abandoned car. And we have the instructor, he comes in and he teaches the firemen where to cut, where not to cut, so you don't injure, say, someone that's trapped in the vehicle.
Sure.
Where to cut structurally on certain parts of the car, so it's easier to get them out. And then with the electric vehicles now, where to cut, where not to cut on certain parts of the vehicle.
Because it could be dangerous to that person.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
I think about 4 to 5 years ago, one of the most unique times in history. It's going through a pandemic. There was cars being sold without chips in them, things being missed just because you couldn't get things imported and exported. How much did that portion of history really change the way you guys did business at Carstar, or was it just business as usual?
Well, if you can imagine, say, having a little backlog at your business,
Mhm.
and then someone instantly turns the faucet off, so there were no cars to fix.
Sure.
Everyone stayed home. So we had
Accidents were happening.
Yeah, our employees all went, we cut them all in half.
Yeah.
And need that many employees. Another thing too was just the availability of parts, depending on what state you were in.
Right.
Nebraska, we were still allowed to go out and say, go to work. So just had to keep your distance. Well, in say Indiana, where they manufactured maybe a little plastic part for a Honda bumper, they were not manufacturing anything at all.
Because they weren't allowed to go to work.
They weren't allowed to go to work in that state. So that was a real problem where we had simple jobs, it seemed like, and we were just waiting on some little part. And it was hard to tell the consumer, hey, all we have left is to put your bumper back on, but this little tiny plastic piece that holds your bumper on isn't available. So we don't know what to do.
Did most people understand that because of where we were at society?
They did, but some it was
sure didn't make the job that much easier. Yeah.
No, but it was still a shock, or your car rental time runs out. A lot of people don't realize maybe you only have 30 days of car rental.
Sure.
And we're waiting for over 2 weeks on a little tiny piece that holds your front bumper on. And you're like, uh-oh, I run out of car rental next week.
Was there anything that you guys learned in that time period that helps you today from a sense of time management, or maybe where to get pieces from that maybe you didn't previously?
I think dealing with the OEM side of it.
What an OEM means?
Original manufacturer.
Okay.
Say when you call Chevy to order a part, you call Honda to order a bumper bracket. I think in the past, they used to explain to us, oh, that's on national back order, which meant sometimes they would have to wait for 10 to 20 of those parts to be demanded for before they manufacture them.
There had to be the demand for the supply.
Correct.
Yeah.
But, and we were still telling customers, yeah, it's going to be about 2 to 4 weeks or
sure.
whatever. Then we learned, don't say that anymore, because in 2
Could be 2 to 4 months.
It's still not here.
Yeah.
And they don't have a release date on that part. So that was something, a learning part.
We talked about the accident portion of it, but it's not just accidents. You guys are helping with hail damage and things like that as well. It's hail season. If somebody is involved in a storm, we just saw some pretty severe weather come through the Omaha area last night. What does that process look like when they bring their vehicle in? What could they expect at the Carstar locations?
Well, first, I am praying for hail all the time.
Sure,
so
yeah.
Bring the white rain. But that process would be...
Mark's going to do his rain dance by the end of this episode, by the way.
I might. But we're still fixing hail from last year.
Wow.
Last year we had a tornado, the Elkhorn tornado, 3 hailstorms.
Is that surprising to you that you're still doing damage repair from last year?
Well, no, depending on the size of the hail. So the stuff that kind of went through Midtown we're finding was a little bigger. So you might have to replace the roof on a vehicle. So imagine sitting in your car and look at all the things around your sun visor, your headliner, all that stuff has to get taken out of your car to replace the roof. Now, some manufacturers might let you glue the roof on, but those have to be welded on also. So
for safety reasons.
For safety reasons, sure. And it's just very time consuming to gut the whole car. And if your roof needs to be replaced, you're probably replacing or repairing every panel on the vehicle.
You guys also offer paintless dent repair.
Paintless dent on the ones that can be fixed. So,
how are you able to do that without painting?
Well, there's little tools that you get behind the dent, and because of the thickness of the metal nowadays on all the cars for fuel economy, you're allowed to massage those out, if you will.
Sure.
Now, that might be different as long as you can get access behind it, or now they have glue tabs, so you can actually glue a little tab to it and actually pull on it with a slide hammer, if you will.
Are there any, and we're not here to bash anybody, but are there any manufacturers or vehicle makers that don't want you to do that, would rather have a full repair, or are most of them open?
I have not seen anything yet that Toyota might be coming out. So if you scratch behind the panel, you're scratching the primer off of it. So they might not allow that in the future.
Sure.
So you're kind of voiding a warranty there because you're scraping off the e-coat when the car is first put together, soaked in a vat of primer, if you will, to protect it. So if you're behind that panel and scratching that off, that might be something in the future that voids a warranty for, say, Toyota. That's the only one I've heard of so far.
From a doing business standpoint, is that the toughest thing you guys have to do? Is the no paint dent removal?
The toughest thing, I would say, is structurally.
Oh, okay. Just because there's so many moving parts.
Knowing all the procedures, like I said, if you were in a car accident and the airbag was deployed and you hit the steering wheel, or even if you didn't, some manufacturers, even like I said, if the part wasn't hurt in the accident, they still might want you to replace that for safety standards.
And is that up to you guys? Is that up to the manufacturer? Is it up to the purchaser?
Up to both.
Okay.
Actually.
Yeah.
So inspecting, say, an interior door panel that had a side air impact bag.
Right.
is that destroyed? Is it broke on the backside? Is it cracked whereas it won't be the way it was before it was in the accident? And the same with the collapsible steering wheels. It might not look like it has any damage, but say Honda says, no matter what, if the airbag's deployed, we want you to replace
For
that
structural purposes.
for structural purposes and safety purposes.
And we're catching up with Mark Krzemien here of the on the Spotlight Omaha podcast from Carstar, sponsored by Pixel Fire Marketing and Pyramid Contractors. I want to talk about the process of walking into a Carstar location. I was just in an accident. I walk in, my vehicle can be repaired. I have insurance. What is the next steps and what does that process look like?
Well, you might want to call your insurance company first.
Sure.
To see if you have coverage.
And you better have some.
You better. And because that'll get the ball rolling. We act as almost like the insurance adjuster almost.
Fair.
We have taken the place of the adjuster that used to come out, look at your vehicle. Your insurance company might set up an appointment with one of our locations. They would send us a file or a claim, if you will. We would take all the pictures, write the estimate, and then send that back to your insurance company. Now, it's your insurance company's prerogative to see if you're covered, you made your last premium, all
is
that
it
kind of good
totaled?
stuff.
Sure.
Is the car totaled or not? Correct. So that's kind of where to get the ball started. We write the estimate, take photos. Now, every insurance company might have a different series of photos they want. They might just want the picture of the damage. They might want a picture of all four corners of the vehicle to see if there's any other damage on the vehicle. Then after that, they decide if they're going to pay or not.
Is that the toughest part about what you guys have to do? Is you're kind of the middleman, right? You're like, hey, here's what's wrong.
Correct.
We don't know if it's going to get paid for.
The adjuster says,
sure.
I don't know if that's from the wreck. That looks like old damage.
Yeah.
That's them making the call, and it's up to us to educate and explain to the customer why they might not, they see a little rust or something on there.
Sure.
That might have been a pre-accident thing.
What percentage of the vehicles that you guys get in ballpark it for is that come in that are totaled, that are just a complete loss?
That's hard to tell.
Yeah.
Depending on where you're at in the city. Did you just have an ice storm and it's a bunch of just slid into a curb type of thing?
Sure.
The hail was a lot of them. So I can't really give you a specific number. Half the cars we looked at that were totaled.
Yeah.
But just depending on where you were in town on the hail. And the same thing with it depends on age, mileage.
Fair.
Whether you're driving a Mercedes or you're driving a Kia. So
which one's worth more?
Yeah. Look at a Kia tomorrow.
Just out of curiosity, if a vehicle is totaled, what happens next for you guys? What does that process look like?
Well, in some cases, what we'll do is we might have to take pictures of the interior of the vehicle, might have to take a tread depth reading on how much is left on the tires.
Yeah.
And the kind of taking a picture of the inside is kind of, you are telling your insurance company, I think my car is worth a lot more than you're giving me.
Yeah.
And they can tell by the photos, really, there's a bunch of junk in the back. It looks like, there's
the whole roof's caved in.
Take care of it,
Yeah.
Or there's previous damage. Say the car was wrecked in the front, but you backed into your neighbor's mailbox 6 months ago and never got it fixed.
Sure.
That's also gonna dictate how much the car is worth.
What is the one piece of advice you'd give to somebody to help maintain the value of their vehicle?
Keeping it clean.
Sure. Just the inside of it?
Just the inside, outside, everything.
You don't want to see the inside of my truck right now.
Right. So, if you're scattering cigarette butts and everything all over the vehicle,
sure,
and Burger King wrappers and all that kind of stuff, you're not really taking care of the vehicle. So keep it clean.
Mm-hmm.
The bottoms of the doors, wipe those out after you're done getting a wash. Make sure there's little weep holes on the bottom of your door too. Sometimes if those get plugged full of dirt and grime, that'll hold water in there and create rust. So,
do you have a favorite "we saved this car" moment?
We saved this car?
Yeah.
Not really.
No. Is it just one comes in, they go back out the door, they're back on the road?
When you're working on cars every day,
sure,
all the time, you're trying to get that car back to pre-accident condition.
You're from Omaha. You're a Ralston graduate. What is it? Why is it a big deal for you to be able to do business in your hometown?
I think there's a feeling of you're part of a neighborhood. You're part of,
Great point.
you might fix someone's car and see them at the supermarket, see them in church, see them at a reunion or many functions that we do in town. So that's always nice to have a smile on your face, or someone says, hey, thank you. I got that car back. Looks better than when it was new. You guys even washed it.
Because you guys are cleaning the Burger King wrappers up.
Right. So if you want to get in a wreck, then we'll get you a free wash. How's that sound?
Anybody that's met you or been in a networking meeting with you can see that you're passionate about Carstar and what you guys do. Where does that passion come from for you?
Well, My dad and my uncle started a body shop or started customizing vehicles in the 50s in my grandmother's back garage. So
Sure.
having learned from my father and my uncle, how a little passion and make sure you do it right, I think that's kind of instilled in me.
When we talk about the second most largest purchase most people make outside of your home, this is obviously something that most people are coming to you on one of the worst days of their lives, whether it be an accident or hail damage or what have you. What is it like to walk into a Carstar and hear that remorse? And why should people pick Carstar for their collision repair?
I think you just said it right there. There's a care factor that, we care about the people. Was there anyone injured? A lot of people are just like, oh my gosh, what do I do now? Well, hey, we can get you a ride home. We can get you a ride to your neighbors, wherever you got to go, or ride to work, say if it's first thing in the morning, and then get you set up, get the ball rolling. Have you contacted your insurance company? When you contact your insurance company, you might have to give a statement on what happened in the accident, draw a diagram, maybe even on who was driving where, how fast do you think they were going? Did they run a red light? Did you run a red light? Were they on their phone? All these things that gets the ball rolling, and then maybe get you into a car rental, and then get the car in, look at it, get an estimate on the vehicle, and then try and come up with close to your car is going to take 2 weeks to fix, a month to fix. You never know.
What's the biggest misconception that people have about what their insurance will cover?
I think a lot of people nowadays, they might have an insurance company or a provider for you,
Yeah,
XYZ insurance company, and they've had them for 20 years. And then they see the lizard or the cartoon general on television, and they switch and they don't compare apples to apples.
sure.
They just get a lower or cheaper rate, and that's what they pay. And then they don't realize that until they're involved in an accident and they realize, oh, I no longer have my deductibles, not 250 or 500. Now it's 1,000. I don't have car rental on my insurance. What am I going to do? My car is going to be in the shop for 2 weeks or whatever. How am I going to get back and forth to work? So I think that is like an eye opener for people that do the online shopping, that you need to compare apples to apples.
We're catching the Mark Krzemien here from Carstar on the Spotlight Omaha podcast, brought to you by Pixel Fire Marketing and Pyramid Contractors. You guys have locations all throughout the city. Is that as simple as we want to be in as many, you mentioned, neighborhoods as possible, that people recognize the logo, they recognize the faces, when they walk in, they know it's somebody that's from right down the street from where they're at?
You bet. And being involved in local communities, say Ralston example, being involved in the chamber and Optimist groups and stuff like that. Being up in the Keystone neighborhood, being involved in the Keystone neighborhood group,
Yeah,
that kind of gives you that hometown feel, and to have the city covered, really.
absolutely.
I mean, if you lived in North Omaha, there are 2 locations up there. If you're down south, there's a location there, and then in Lincoln we have a location. So
When we talk about the extremes, we talked about hail, but obviously you get the cold, the heat, and everything in between in Omaha. How does weather outside of hail damage kind of affect how you guys do business?
well, we're always praying for snow or ice in the
Sure.
winter, of
Yeah.
course. So
Yeah.
that kind of dictates, say, the bumps and the bruises that happen. Some, when we have an ice storm or something like that, it's really changes the dollar amount that might be towed in, instead
Right.
of, say, just a bump. I bumped into my neighbor's mailbox, like I said, or crunched the garage door, took the mirror off the car, something like that. So
The tow truck aspect's really interesting to me. Is that something you guys actively do? Is try to keep a relationship with those tow companies here in Omaha? So they
always,
suggest,
if your
yeah.
car is towed in, and that's normally dictated by whatever county has a contract with either the city or the county on who comes and picks the car
Oh,
up.
is that what it is?
That,
Okay, I
yeah,
didn't.
unless you know a tow company,
They just
yes.
call you.
Yes,
Yeah.
correct.
What, like, so we talked about insurance, we talked about tow companies. Is there any other industry that you guys try to maintain a relationship with to help filter business in and out?
Mainly with the insurance company, because
Mhm.
nowadays the price of a repair on a vehicle, we still do some customer pay. Say your 16-year-old gets in a wreck
Mhm.
and you don't want that to go on their insurance right away. We offer financing for that, for
Oh,
those
okay.
customers that maybe even need to finance their deductible if they've changed their deductible to
Way higher.
$1,000, and you think, well, I wrecked my car, I'm just going to wait and save up that $1,000. Well, what if your wheels bent? What if your headlights out? And
Can't
it's
drive
winter
it.
time and you leave
Yeah.
work at 5 o'clock, you don't have any headlights.
Sure.
That might not be an option for you. You have to have it fixed right away. So
We've kind of covered a lot. How can people find Carstar, and if they need you guys to set up an appointment?
carstar.com, enter your zip code in there, get you the nearest location. Or we have, like I said, 70th and Q in Omaha, 90th and Fort, 120th and Maple, and 21st and K in Lincoln.
That's Mark. How would we pronounce it?
Krzemien.
But how would we pronounce it if we were not named
Krzemien.
with Carstar here on the Spotlight Omaha podcast? If unfortunately you did have some hail damage last night, or you have been involved in an accident and you need some help, check out carstar.com and find the location nearest you. Buddy, I appreciate you doing this. Thanks. It's been fun. This has been the Spotlight Omaha podcast. We'll be back tomorrow at 11. Thanks for joining us. Don't forget to like and subscribe on YouTube. We'll see you in the morning.